suggesting if we don't find there's a constitutional violation, then even if we find that Mr. Amrine is actually innocent, he should be executed?
The U.S. Supreme Court.
I'm asking, is that what you're arguing?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Holy shit! You know you are on the wrong side of an argument when you're asked, should innocent people be executed? You say, that's correct, Your Honor.
The idea that you can simply appeal wrongful conviction and get exonerated is widespread, but the truth is, even with compelling evidence, innocence itself is not an appealable issue. The Constitution guarantees the writ of habeas corpus, which is to protect against unlawful imprisonment. The truth is federal courts' hands are tied by something called AEDPA, Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act, passed in the 1990s in the wake of the Oklahoma City bombing. The justification for it was, we cannot let terrorists like Timothy McVeigh or any prisoners on death row appeal their cases endlessly. The problem is, AEDPA applies to everyone, not just terrorists and death row inmates. It also imposed a strict one-year deadline to complete the massive undertaking of filing a federal appeal. With a system so fundamentally flawed already, we need to get rid of AEDPA while Biden is in office, thus allowing time for serious errors in criminal convictions to be corrected.
This just doesn't make sense in my view, Mr. President, as a practical matter or as a matter of principle. We should not, in our haste to hurry up executions, lose sight of our commitment to constitutional values. We should not endorse proposals that increase the chance that where execution is imminent, that an innocent person be executed. We should not, I believe, sacrifice certainty in the name of speed or fairness in the name of vengeance.
All of that brings us to today, where many wrongfully convicted people are still locked up with a racially disproportionate impact. Innocent black people are about 7 times more likely to be convicted of murder than innocent white people. And at the same time, those who actually committed the crimes are still at large, as the Philly DA points out.
Justice means that you try to do things that are proportional and you try to do things that are accurate. If you're trying to do things that are accurate, that means you do not want the guilty person who got away to continue to get away. And you also don't want the innocent person to stay in jail. Because that ain't right. I mean, duh.
Yeah, he's right. Fucking duh. Consider the case of Melissa Lucio. She went through the most horrific thing imaginable, the death of her 2-year-old daughter after a fall down a flight of stairs. But the police suspected foul play, and over the course of a marathon interrogation, the night of her daughter's death, lasting until 3 a.m, they pushed her to confess to murder.
Basically, what they were doing is they were trying to make me admit that I was the one responsible for her fall. And I kept telling them that I hadn't hurt my daughter, and they were very vulgar, very, very rough, very persistent.
This is your chance to set it straight, because right now it looks like capital murder. Right now it looks like you're a cold-blooded killer. Now, are you a cold-blooded killer?
No, I'm not.
Or were you a frustrated mother who just took it out on her?
We know somebody did it. We're trying to find out who did it.
Listen, it happens. Okay? We all make mistakes. We all make mistakes. We all get upset. We already know what happened.
Look, I know that's upsetting to watch, but it's really important to see just how aggressive and manipulative the system can be in someone's most vulnerable moments that lead to things like false confessions. Because after all of that, she told those officers what they wanted to hear, that she had, in the past, spanked her daughter. The state then argued to the jury that that counted as a murder confession. And she was convicted in a trial where not only did the prosecution keep the jury from hearing psychologist testimony that could have spoken to her mental state at the time, but her own defense attorney decided not to call her other children to the stand who'd have testified that they never witnessed any physical abuse from her. And yet, when she tried to appeal her conviction to state court, The judge was apparently in such a hurry, he initially tried to rule for the prosecution before the defense had even filed their response, and once it got to federal court, a split ruling denied her appeal, but even the judges who ruled against her admitted there was expert testimony that, if jurors had only heard it, could have impacted the verdict, going on to acknowledge, we are all, though, working within the constraints of AEDPA. Melissa Lucio is now scheduled to be executed on April 27th, next month. And to hear her prosecutor tell it, there's only one person to blame for that.
She has nobody to blame but herself. She has nobody to blame but herself. You know, people say, well, she shouldn't be there, she shouldn't be there. Well, you know, she put herself there. Whose fault is it? Whose fault is it that she's there if it's not hers?
I mean, I can take a crack at that answer if you want, because it starts with not hers, and while it isn't a complete list, it includes the cops who badgered her, the Texans who voted for a governor who seems unwilling to intervene, Ted Cruz, I'm assuming, somehow, the 91 senators who voted for EDPA in 1996, Hammurabi for codifying capital punishment in ancient Babylon, and you for prosecuting based on a confession that wasn't even a confession, you fucking arsehole!
Please sign the petition on change.org to repeal AEDPA. The link is in the description.